Okay, my first tip for creating a part is to keep it simple. I've got an example here of a chord progression that's pretty somewhat complex, or just moves a lot, and I have it at two different tempos. It's kind of a gospel progression, and I'll play it for you right now. In fact, I'll play the fast one for you so you can hear that and get the gist here. That's it. That's the progression. And it's basically in the key of G, and it's G chord to a G7, to a C, to a C over D. Need two hands. Okay. And then E minor 7 over D, and then C sharp minor 7 flat 5, and then back to G, G7, C. I don't think I ever went to never went to the C minor, and I think I went to C sharp diminished, and then I went to D sus, and to D, and to G. But it kind of a classic kind of gospel vibe. So this is where theory comes in handy. A little bit of theory can really can serve you. And so if you know the chord tones in all those chords, okay, let me just say them again. G is the first chord, and that's G, B, D. G7 is G, B, D, F. Okay, then the next chord was C, and that was C, E, G. And then C over D, and that was C, E, G over D. So C, E, G, D. And then E minor 7, E, G, B, and D, and then over D in the bass, same chord, and then C sharp minor 7 flat 5. That might be the one that you might not know. It's basically an E minor chord with a C sharp in the bass. It's C sharp, E, G, and B, and then back to G, G7, C. You can even throw a C minor in there, and then a D sus to D and G. Okay, so the C minor would be C, E flat, G, and then the D sus would be D, G, A, and then the D would be D, F sharp, A, and then we end on the G chord. Okay, now there was one note that was in every one of those chords with the exception of the D chord, and if you play that one note, it should work over every chord until you get to the D chord, and then you'll hear something that doesn't sound right, and you make a little adjustment and you can fix it. Now that would be a G. G is the common tone in all those chords, and I'm just going to play a G note. I'm going to do kind of a funky little rhythm here. Okay, now you can hear where I changed to the F sharp to accommodate the D chord, because like I said, there's no G in that D chord. So now I could have stayed on the G, and it would have created a little dissonance, maybe something like this, and it might have sounded weird. And one little trick you can do, if the note doesn't sound right, you can either go up or down 1 or 2 frets, and you'll find a note that works. In this case, if I'd gone down 1 fret, F sharp would work. If I go up 2 frets, I get to A would have worked. Either one of those notes would have worked. So generally, you'll be able to find 2 notes that'll work, that are neighboring tones to the tone that you're sitting on. Okay. Now I'm going to play this again with the faster tempo, so you can kind of hear it. And if you were to see this written out, you might go, "Oh my gosh, look at all these chords. This is crazy. I can't read all these chords." You don't necessarily have to be able to find all those chords. You don't have to be able to play them all. That might be a little bit too busy for the part, especially if the piano player is really covering everything. It might be better, it might even sound better if you did something real simple. So pretty fast. Now that time I went up to A. That time instead of going down to F sharp, I went up to A. And that note also worked over the D chord. Okay. Another thing we could do, and I'm going to slow this down. That tempo was just too fast. It just sounded silly. That was 140. I'm going to put it at, say, 126. Let's try that. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of doing just a single G note, I'm going to do octave Gs. So I'm going to play the 5th fret of the 4th string and the 8th fret of the 2nd string with my pinky. And then I'm gonna mute all the other strings. So I'm gonna need to lay down my first finger, deaden that 3rd string, and maybe even get that 1st string. And then the tip of my first finger is gonna deaden the 5th string. I should be okay. I don't necessarily need to hit the 6th string, but I can also mute that with my middle finger. So, and that's how basically octave Gs would sound. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so there I went to the A and the F sharp. Okay, now I'm going to knock that up an octave so we get more up here, and this is kind of more like a 60s R&B thing, maybe a Jackson 5 kind of Jackson 5 vibe. So my first finger is on the 3rd string at the 12th fret, right there, G, and my pinky's going to be on this G up here on the 1st string at the 15th fret. And same kind of thing. I'm going to mute with the fingers. Just try to really mainly hit the top 3 strings and not hit anything else with my right hand. Okay. Okay. You heard that where I accidentally stayed on the G too long and it sounded a little bit out of tune, and I dropped down to the F sharp. That's an example where you just kind of use your ear to find those notes that aren't working and fix them, and they'll work. So that's my first lesson on finding the part. Keep it simple. Know your theory. Use your knowledge to find a part that's going to be kind of simple and maybe in some ways like a conduit that kind of holds the whole tune together. The chord progression can be very, very simple. I mean, very, very complex. And your part may be the thing that kind of keeps it all put together and not sound so frenetic or chaotic. That's the thing. And that way you don't have to worry about trying to come up, find all the voicings for those chords, especially if they're going by really quick. I could have double timed that chord progression very easily. Everything would have worked fine. The same principles would have applied, but it just would have been going by twice as fast. So anyway, I hope that helps. God bless you guys. I'll talk to you soon.